Here we go, bringing it back after Ironman Chattanooga. Wow.
We are back. We are back. We are back. It's a Tuesday.
What
September
a weekend,
28th,
man.
2021. Welcome aboard, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Crushing Iron Podcast, and we are absolutely 516.
Mm-hmm. All the way to the bank.
Yeah.
What'd you get into this weekend?
To show you how tired I am, I said, what are we, 417? He said, no, we're 516. I was a little off. Listen, I'm still tired. I'm still exhausted, but I am still so pumped about this last weekend. We obviously had there was a race here in town, our hometown, and we had a lot of events here at the Hub. Mike raced. I coached and spectated. And we had 50-plus athletes from all across the country come in and race. We had, obviously, a bunch of you listeners as well. We got to meet a couple of you, give some high fives and some shout-outs on the race course. But, yeah, we took yesterday off to recover and re-energize, and I think I need at least like 2 or 3 more days to just kind of get back to like baseline.
Oh, it's fine with me, dude.
Yeah, I know you need longer. So you did most of pretty much all the work on Sunday. But yeah, it takes a while. It's a good kind of draining, but it is draining nonetheless.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think yours was more healthy.
Well, I mean, I had pizza and a lot of Little Debbie assortment cakes and
breakfast.
Yeah, 5 guys for breakfast, and just a lot of. Hey, listen,
it's so triathlon.
Hey, listen, on race day, you do what you have to do when you can do it, and if you're spectating, that's what happens. Like you just get the job done. So that's what we tried to do. We got the job done. So many of you got the job done, and what ended up being just honestly a really spectacular day of racing. Here in Chattanooga, the weather held off. It was beautiful. It did get hot because it always gets hot. The river flow was gentle. It treated everybody pretty nicely from what I thought. It was about as perfect day as you're going to ask for on a September in the South, and it was so great to see everybody. But your first time tuning in, I want to welcome you. We know you have a lot of options in the triathlon podcast universe and just podcasts in general, so we appreciate you giving us your time. We cover it all. We cover swim, bike, run, detailed podcasts about training. We cover race recaps, which we'll do a little bit of that today, I would have to imagine. We'll do race previews. Oh, and I'll go and touch on this quickly. We have a lot of emails about doing an Ironman Muncie preview. We probably won't get to that this week, I would imagine, before it actually get out and for you guys to listen to it and apply it. But one of our most popular casts we've ever done has been our Muncie 70.3 preview cast that we did probably, 3 years ago? At least probably maybe 2 or 3 years ago.
We've done a couple, I think.
Yeah, and it's very, very similar, if not just the double of what it is. So I would go back, listen to that if you want a real preview of that. It won't be as hot, obviously, because I think the weather looks spectacular again for bike racing. It's another busy weekend. Like I was like, gonna re-energize, just relax, catch up. Then you're like, boom, Ironman Indiana on Saturday, Muncie 70.3 Saturday, Memphis 70.3 Saturday. It's like, but wham, bam, bam. It's like you continue to keep going. So that's one of our better recap ones, or our race preview ones rather. Sometimes we'll hop into our Facebook group, which is Crushing Iron Group. If you want to search that, be a part of the awesome conversation in there. Everyone's in there, from beginners and athletes haven't even done a triathlon yet to Ironman champions, everyone in between. It's a really awesome place to kind of farm out some answers to some of your more popular questions. And then Mike and I, as both coaches, athletes, and best friends, just kind of sit back, relax, have an open and honest discussion about what we're going through, what our athletes are going through. We work with a wide range of athletes from across the globe, and so we can kind of take the pulse of what they're kind of going through, and oftentimes, that kind of speaks to our listeners, because we're all going through life, we're all going through training, we're trying to figure it out. And I was reminded so many times yesterday or on Sunday, watching people, just how relative so many things are, and just how much racing and a day as long as Ironman is just so very, it's just so much like life in general, with the ups and downs and the frustrations and the happiness and all the different emotions you go through on race day. And so that speaks to a lot of people. That's it. We got no sponsors, no ads, one agenda. That's to keep you happy and healthy in your endurance sports journey.
That's true. That is a good point, actually, I think I wrote a little piece a while ago about Ironman as a metaphor for life or something, like the race itself and how many highs and lows and stuff like that. And I also think that in a lot of ways, the highs and lows are higher and lower than normal life, so it kind of gives you a good perspective. I'm just the grinding pain and the questioning yourself and all those sorts of things. And I do think that it kind of makes it kind of takes the edge off of some of these daily problems maybe, or something. Maybe that's part of the reason we do it. I mean, that's all I got, man. Dude, I can't think of any other reason why the hell you do that kind of thing.
I know that I was telling you right before we went live, and I told a couple of people this on Sunday, is basically from like race morning when it's dark outside and the lights are on, through the swim, the bike, and like basically through the first lap of the run. I always get it's time. It's time for me to get back in the saddle. It's time for me to do a full again. I can't wait. Let's do this. I signed up for 19 different Ironmans up until 6:00 on Sunday. And then after the second loop starts, I'm like, F that, dude. I'm not doing this again.
That's very wise.
Because it's just so painful. And it's all relative, right? It's just like life, right? It's like you see, no matter how fast you're going, it's all relative. Everyone... And I kind of said this to a lot of the athletes or a mile 13, or even like would come across around like mile 24 or 5 on the bridge. They're like, my legs are hurting. I'm like, yeah, you've done a lot today. Like they're like, and we told you guys this, if you listen by mile 13 on, your legs they're going to hurt no matter what, no matter if you're the first place guy like Joe Skipper coming through blazing. I mean, just ripping that course to shreds, or you're one of the 16-hour finishers at mile 13, no matter what. You're hurting. Like you are in a dark place of hurt, and you're either going to have an hour and 20 minutes left or 3 to 3.5 hours left, and it's all going to be uncomfortable. Then you have people that have great days, and that's like, people ask, like when you have a lot of people do an Ironman as a coach, it's really, you rarely ever have the perfect day, because you have it's just like life. You have a lot of people who doing like really, really awesome that day. You have a lot of people that are struggling, and everyone else is kind of in between. Like, and that's just kind of like, there is no, with a day that long and that demanding, it's very rare that things go perfectly for everyone. It's just not the case, and that has to, a lot of things have to go your way on a day that long for things to go like really, really, really well. Or they could go really, really well up to a point, right? And things happen. Or like we had a lot of athletes say they had these little, things pop up, or GI issues or whatever. You're like, God, but my legs feel great. And they're just super frustrated because they're like, I was having a really incredible day. Now I just can't keep things down. And it's just frustrating, right? And you see people's disappointment and frustration, but you also see people just being incredibly proud and happy to be able to make it and finish such a grueling event and day. And it's very much like life. And but I think each race, no matter what happens, there's a lot to take from it from a positive standpoint as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, it is all relative.
It's all relative.
And I think it applies. I mean, first of all, that race absolutely demolished me.
I was going to ask you, we haven't had a chance to recap your day yet, but how are you feeling?
No, I think I feel like the Badgers must have felt after Notre Dame spanked them on Saturday. I mean, Jesus. But anyway, no, I am, I think, truthfully, I mean, the fact of the matter is, and I'm not saying this is an excuse, but I did not train hard enough. I know that, or consistently. But I thought, okay, I've done it before, and I knew I had it in me, but I didn't quite have it all in me. Like at some point that pain was there. Could I have pushed through some of it maybe a little harder? I didn't see, like for me, it didn't add up,
Mm-hmm.
Like could I have dug deeper? Probably. But I didn't have, that why in me.
Mm-hmm.
I've been there before, and I'm like, here I go again,
Mm-hmm.
and then that was like the last one kind of too. And, granted, as a coach and as an athlete, I just think that, I definitely needed to train harder if I wanted to do what I think I can do. And I think as it's been a couple of years, I'm older. I went through a lot of stuff and, with, little injuries and stuff over these 2 years. So I just probably didn't have, I didn't go after it as much as I should have if I wanted to actually do what I thought I could do.
Mm-hmm.
But in my mind, there's, me, I'm just like, I can do it or whatever.
I know you. Yeah.
And I do think I could have, I could have gone under 12 hours maybe if I would have just really, really sucked it up. But man, at some point it was just like, it was all I could do to keep, that walk and sound. When you get over the North Shore,
especially in the second loop.
On that second loop, and I did run Barton the first time, and Battery Hill, and I felt okay, but it was like, here's my another interesting thing that I came across is, I live here now. We live here, and for me to think about going out on that second loop was to go out where I train all the time, and it just was really annoying me. Like I've run that thing so many times, and now I'm like, I have to go do it for real. I can't just turn off and go back to my house. And I knew exactly what was in front of me. And when I got on Veterans Bridge to look at Barton for that second time, I was like, boy, I just couldn't. I definitely did a lot of run walking, but and the whole thing I was, because we always talk about having fun.
Always.
Yeah.
If you can.
If you can.
The back half of that loop is not much fun.
And I got to, I don't know, I'd say after mile 70 on the bike, I was really digging for ways to have fun out there, and then I got to that run and like, I felt okay, but I knew I didn't feel good. And I mean, I was just tired, dude. I didn't sleep the night before, and
that's what Emily said. Yeah, you didn't sleep at all,
man. It's unbelievable. I'd been sleeping pretty good, and then all of a sudden I was just amped. I wasn't like nervous. I was just kind of like, it had that boiling was going, and it was like, let's just pour it out, man. And I couldn't sleep.
I think, you said a few things I think a lot of athletes go through when they go into races feeling like maybe not underprepared, but maybe they haven't prepared to the level of the way that they have in the past. Right. And I think when because you always kind of join up athletes on both ends of the spectrum. Like you have athletes who feel like they're so prepared that they expect things to come from them, and if it's not, it's a huge letdown, and that either allows them to push forward and push harder because they know they've done the work that should yield a harder effort or a better pace or a specific result. Then you have athletes who question their training, even though they've done plenty, they still don't feel like it's enough. And they generally kind of hedge their bet a little bit on race day to play kind of safe, to kind of fall at least within the ballpark, because you don't want to push it too much because, then you might explode, right? And then you're going to bonk him. You might lose an hour versus gaining 10 minutes. You kind of play those mind games and you're like, is it worth it? Like, I could crack 12, right? And I could really go for it. Or my 11:55 might turn into a not 12 hour ish, but it turned to a 13:10, because I might just blow it so hard that, I've got to end up walking 5 miles. So I think a lot of athletes kind of play that game in their head. And then you have athletes, I think, that go into a race like yourself for whatever reason, coming off injury or coming off just, life stresses or, motivation or commitment issues in terms of getting inconsistent training. And they kind of go into the race with, I know inherently I haven't really done the work that I'm used to doing to go to the well for a race like this. And so I think it's hard for athletes to, like you said, to dig really, really deep, because frankly, you're like, I don't really know how much deeper I have because I haven't really dug that deep all year, right? Or I haven't dug a well big enough to dig deep to go find. So you know what? I'm just going to kind of make my way through, and survive. And I mean, even then, I thought you did really well surviving the day and continuing to move forward on what is even on the prettiest days, it's like, oh, we get a fast swim. You also add 4 miles on the bike, on not an easy bike course. And even if you're going 20 miles an hour, it's 12 minutes extra. You're on the bike, if not more. And then what is just a relentless run course? No matter how hot it is, it's just, I think people continuously see that and they're like, but it's a run course. It's not, it's bad. The back half of that is, I never heard anybody say, it wasn't that bad. It was always, it ate my lunch. It gut punched me. It's like, uppercut after uppercut with tons of, or jab after jab after jab, body shot with a few uppercut swings, rolled into whether you get hit with them or not. And you just got to kind of make your way through. And I think that's, your level of preparedness, impacts people if they're at least being objective on race day in terms of how they're able to handle their emotions and digging deep, and if I do dig deep, like how much farther is it going to get me, and how much do I really have in the tank? Because I think we all kind of play that game when we see, like that we had an athlete that was towards the front of the field and, he wasn't having a good day, but I was like, you're having a good day. And instead of being just like, hey, you need to go for it, I was just like, dude, just slow down as little as possible. If this is your day to not have it, then don't have it like this for 13 more miles. Because it was like, you can just be this. And because if I say you got to go hard, then like what I told you, you might gain 2 minutes or you might lose 45, right? Because at some point you just don't have anything else to give, and you can ask it of yourself, but once you're emotionally and mentally spent, and then you combine that with being physically spent, then there's no coming back from that, right? You can, if you're physically spent, but you're mentally, emotionally still there and you're pushing yourself, you can grind your way to the finish line, and the same thing goes for if you're mentally, emotionally not there, but physically you feel good, you just kind of like mindlessly go about your way and just kind of shuffle your way along and get to the finish line. But if you end up going, blank on all three, then there's nothing. Like then the only result is I'm just going to lose time by walking and then being mad at myself of why I can't do this and why I can't do that. And then you're just going to be out there longer, not enjoying yourself. But like you said, like there's, especially with the full, there at some point you're just not having fun. Like it's just not. I didn't see people having fun on the second loop, and because I think it's just so hard. It's a long day. You just get beat down over and over and over and over and over again, and then you see people start to kind of have a little bit of gratitude because they're like, I think it's gratitude / thank God it's almost over. I can't wait for this to be almost over. I'm so glad I don't have to do this anymore, because it's just a long. People will always underestimate how absolutely long the day is of doing a race like that. It is just so insanely long, and you do so much that I think, again, like no matter how, and it's no matter how fast you go, it's still all relative. It still all hurts. It's still not fun at some point, but it is a way for people to push themselves and figure things out and to grow and to figure out. I think people use it to, and we talk about this all the time. People generally sign up for these to figure out life, to figure out things, to push themselves in ways. Mm-hmm. It's not just about, for most of us, it's not just about doing the race. It's about growing, and it's about becoming something different or someone different, or working their way through life. And race day is just kind of one of those reminders that, training and racing is a lot like life. It giveth and it taketh away. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it took for me, and I definitely learned a lot out there. And one thing I learned is, we had a couple of our athletes and I had a side bet going on. And I just want to tell this story because it was interesting. Chet and Phil, we had been talking about this for a year and who's going to win and blah, blah, blah. And it was all kind of been fun, but I still think that, we take it seriously. So, and I was, fully confident that I could go out and do that. And just to back it down, like I had a really nice swim. I took it super chill, and I was just solid the whole way in. I got out, and like I saw you, and I looked at I was like, damn, that was under an hour. So regardless of the current, and I know it definitely was there. I could tell when I was swimming by the buoys. That was kind of how I noticed.
Getting to them a little bit quicker than you normally do.
Yeah, you would just like, but still, that's a long ass swim, man. It's like once you get to the orange, you're halfway home, and those things just seem to never come. But anyway, I got out, and I'm like, okay, an hour swim. That sets me up pretty good, because I kind of, and Phil, I think Phil outswam me actually, and Chet was right behind me. So we all had a decent swim, but in my mind, I'm like, okay, I probably got out of the water before those guys a little bit at least. So then I'm out on the bike, and I thought I was riding pretty well. I felt really good through the first loop actually, and right about, I think it was right before Chickamauga. I feel it was like 50 some miles or something. It was right around 50 miles. I'm just kind of cruising along going, hey, I might have this, because I've been bitching about how tough my summer's been out there, and the course seemed totally different to me at that race. And I wasn't having any problems with the hills, and I think I was, right around 19 and a half miles an hour when I hit mile 50 on average, around there. And I was just cruising along going, all right, I'm out in front. All of a sudden, Chet pulls up and goes, hey, Mike, you're looking good. And he just like blew right by me. And then I'm like, oh, okay, all right, well, in my mind, I'm starting to think, I'll just dig. I'll just let him go a little bit, and I'll find it, and I'll come out, and I'll catch him in the last 10 miles and say the same thing to him. And then about 3 minutes later, Phil passes me, and he goes, hey, because I was spraying myself off and everything. He goes, you get a little pee on the bike or something? And I go, yeah. And he just went by me too. And I'm like, oh boy. It was a little earlier than I expected him. Let's just put it that way. And it kind of threw a little nail in my coffin, so to speak.
I guessed. I made the comment, I think, to him, and I said, I wish he kind of would have gotten, because you swam well and you got in pretty quick. And I thought, man, like I wonder what the psyche is going to do if you'd have just started behind them and finished after them, so you just never knew where they were and never knew what was going on, versus coming out of the water before both of them, but not that far. And then within the first 20 miles, probably have them, catch or get next to you, what that was going to do to the 50-59 psyche battle. Yeah.
Well, it was at least 50. So I was almost halfway through and I'm like, I feel pretty. And then they just kind of cruised by me. And then we hit special needs. I got off and got 3 new bottles. And I think that might be the first time I've ever done special needs, but it worked out. Got my stuff. And then I'm taking off and then you climb that big long hill out of Chickamauga. And then you bomb down, and I'm like, all right, I'm a good descender. So I was going after that hill, and I cruised around the corner back to do the second loop, and then Chet passes me again. And he goes, still looking good, Mike. And I'm like, he must have just took forever in special needs or something.
Yeah, I'll talk to you about that, Chet.
And but the best part was I don't know if I was hallucinating or if it was real, but in his pockets on his jersey, I swear I saw like drink umbrellas and like chopsticks. And I'm like, what is this guy? He was just so happy and having fun and just cruised right by me. I have to ask him. Well, I guess I just did ask him, what the hell is he doing with drink umbrellas in there?
Well, maybe it's just settling up for maybe like have a little Mai Tai at special needs. Maybe that's what he was doing and taking so long. Had it posted up, had a little Mai Tai. He was in Hawaii for 2 weeks for the race, and maybe he brought back some umbrellas and stuff.
I wonder if I could have swore that's what it was. I'm like, man, no, that's just rubbing it in, man.
Yeah, he's
and so I mean, I'll just finish this whole story with those guys before we go on. But and then I'm thinking, well, I didn't think they were blowing me away or anything, so I thought I'd be sort of in the ballpark with them. And as it turns out, I kind of was off the bike. And then, but when I was going up Barton the first time and then going down the backside, those guys were both coming up, and that was about that's 2 miles at least, probably lead. And that happened to me the other way when I was racing Corey Coggins back in the day, and he saw me coming up and he knew he was toast, and that was exactly what crossed my mind. And then I saw Mark Moody coming up the hill, and he's in our age group, and then Dennis Meyer was behind him, and I'm like,
loaded.
Shit, they are killing me today. And after that, then I was just like, man, I knew I didn't have that to get him. And that's what made it, I think, even more painful, to be honest, because I'm like, shit, I'm done this early in the game. And besides that, the Dave Condon, who you were talking about earlier, who was up in the front, he passed me on the Veterans Bridge in my first loop, and I'm like, oh boy, this makes me feel real good. He's on his second loop, and I thought I was racing pretty well, and he's like blows by me on the bridge, like my mile
9 or 10,
8 or 9, whatever. So I was just a little bit deflated. I mean, I know Dave's a little younger than I am.
He is a little younger than he is.
I still want,
it's still not fun to get lapped, even by the pros. It's still not fun to get lapped, even by the pros that come flying around there. Yeah. But I mean, all in all, like, listen, every time we go to a race or one of us participates in one, it's always a constant reminder. And like I was reminded a ton as a coach, like, just how much it also means to people to just do one. As a coach, I always try to, to other coaches and the coaches that we have, like one of the bigger conversations I like to have with them is like, your mentality about racing and how you approach racing and the level of intensity in which you expect or have expectations about being competitive are not the same as the person that you're coaching. Because you have, we had people that raced in the 9-hour range, and then we had people in the 15 to 16-hour range, and everyone in between. Yet the level of excitement and happiness that people have, no matter where they finish, because again, like so much is relative, right? And just like we said about the pain of running a 7-minute mile for one person on mile 13 is relative, and it's for them it's painful. But that's probably the same level, around the same level of pain as a person coming over at mile 13 running a 12-minute mile. It's all you got. It's everything you can do. And so when you see people, it's pain, it's discomfort. But then, you got, like the guy we had in the front, Dave Conley, who qualified for Kona. He, I almost felt like an enormous amount of guilt because he was crossing the pedestrian bridge in mile 25 and he stopped and gave me a hug at the end. It's like, I love you, coach. And then he started to try back at running again and cramped up and almost had to start walking. I was like, great, this is going to be like the end. He's going to get caught. And then, we had athletes at the 14, 15 hour mark coming across the pedestrian bridge, just so happy because at that end of the pedestrian bridge where I saw you, you can hear the music. You can hear the music off in the distance across the river. You can see the finish line, down to the right. And that's when people start to get there like, it's done. Like, I've got it. It still hurts and still sucks. But then it's kind of disappears for a minute because you're like, I can see it. I can hear it. That's going to be me. And you still have people, even, the athletes that we don't work with thanking you or I'm so happy, like it's almost over. It's the same thing, right? It's different emotions, but it's the same level of gratitude and appreciation that people have for themselves of just getting it done, right? Because the amount of joy and happiness that a person might have with one time might be the exact same level the person that was 4 or 5 hours quote unquote slower, because it's about it's always about what you want to get out of it, but there's just so much that you can, I think, learn from watching people and just being very appreciative and grateful of the opportunity that you have to race. And as a coach, it's just fun. It's fun to be able to see people in person, tell them that you're proud of them. It's like one of the, I might say a few things on race day about, get moving or keep going, but I try to, generally speaking, it's hard to find, like just kind of be even, keel. But it's fun on like the second loop when they're about to be done. It's just fun to tell athletes that you're proud of them. That's really all I try to say. I'm proud of you, no matter what the time is, because because they're always going to care more than I do. It's just about being proud of sticking it through the day and just making it right to the start line and getting your butt out the door. So because I think everybody has nerves and anxiety about participating in an event and the pressure they put on themselves, and people are tracking them. Everybody's gonna be watching. Yeah. It's like that feeling. And
oh yeah.
And it's just a lot, and just to make it through that day, I think can teach us a lot about just gratitude and finding happiness even when things don't go perfectly. And just getting back up, off the mat and getting back to work. It's like it doesn't have to be immediate, but it's just there's so much to learn. And I would encourage everybody, if you haven't raced one or you haven't spectated one, go spectate one and just see all the different emotions and happiness and people. You can also see on people's faces like they're just not having their day. They're walking, their heads down, they're shaking their head, but they're still moving forward. They're still moving. They're not quitting. They're just trying to do the best they can with it. It might not be what they wanted, might not be what they expected, not be how they felt 30 minutes ago, but they're going to get it done and they're going to finish. And that there's a lot to be said for that mentality. And I think the growth that you get from that, but then also the bad days usually teach us about the good days, and you never, ever know what you're going to get with a full. And people I think always expect this and expect that, but you never know. You have to have luck and you have to have a lot of things go right on race day for it to really, truly go as well as you want it to. Because it could go perfectly till mile 15, right, of the run. And if things go to shit the last 11 miles, the previous, 130 don't matter at all. Because all you're thinking about is, gosh, I was this close to putting it all together that day. I was this close. But that's also what keeps people coming back, right? So it's like, people are very rarely satisfied with their day fully and not already like, hell, it's Tuesday, not even 48 hours removed from most people. And I'm already getting emails like, yeah, I really want ready to work on. I'm like, dude, talk to me in 2 weeks. Like, just go be by yourself, hang out, figure out what you really want to do. And for the most part, stop thinking about all the things you think you can do better at and start being appreciative of things that you were able to do.
Yeah, that's good stuff. When you're talking that way, and I think I have a lot of, I had so much, juxtaposition going on in my head with that whole day, as in, because when you have certain goals and that you haven't done it, and like I said, I've done the race many times, and it becomes this kind of like, I think maybe I'll look back on this and feel proud of it and feel good about things in a few days, but in the meantime, it's been kind of hard, and it's because you're talking about that coming up the pedestrian bridge at that last loop, and I saw you, and I could hear the music, I could see the finish line, I knew I was going to finish, but all I could think about was how much that downhill was going to hurt.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I've never
it looks
really
so painful,
felt that.
dude.
Yeah, I never really felt that. Like that was the thing with me is the like I've always kind of got that extra juice, but this time it was all I was doing is breathing and like just trying to focus to get this thing done. Because I was literally thinking, yeah, it's downhill, but then it gets flat again, and I got to really kind of suck that up to finish. But it wasn't as long as I remembered it. Thank God, that little red carpet area. But so yeah, that was a tricky thing, and it's just like I was just not there because on the first time coming up the backside of Barton on that first loop, I tweaked, my IT band started hurting. I'm like, oh man, like it was just weird stuff like that going on for me that I hadn't really been dealing with any of that sort of pain, and my knee was hurting, and that never really happens. And so I had all this stuff going on, but yeah, I was really trying to find that grateful place. And I know I had a lot of athletes come up behind me and say, hey, let's go, man, or whatever. And I said, I'm trying, dude. I'm trying. You want to run together? I'm like, no. That was the other thing on the bridge when we went over. I got almost off the pedestrian bridge and about ready to finish. And Krista came kind of running by me looking good. And she kind of slowed down. She goes, Mike. She goes, let's go in together. And I'm like, you just go ahead. Because I was really legit worried about getting injured on that downhill. And she was kind of flying. I was like, you take the limelight, But I mean, it never changes like that finish line for me. I saw Emily and my mom and Kate, my niece, were there, and they had the sign. They had the best signs with me and Wim Hof
man,
in the ice tub. And I just gave them a big hug, and it turned out perfectly because like there was no one around. And I gave it a big hug, and the guy kind of went on about me a little bit.
Was it as long as?
No, it wasn't
your
long.
Louisville carpet.
Long, no.
Okay, because
I didn't say anything to anybody else.
Because the Louisville carpet was political. It was, you shook hands with at least 45 people. Mike tried. Thank you for being here, Mike tried. You kissed at least 9 babies. And he doesn't shake hands with just the one hand. He does the shake hand, and then you collapse it with the other hand.
Yeah.
With the, you sandwich the one hand in between two, and it took him a while. But he got your money's worth. So it wasn't that long in this one, right?
No, it wasn't at all. They were pretty close to the actual finish line, and I gave them all a hug. And then the guy, he was talking. He's like, Mike, another C26. And I heard that so many times afterwards. And he goes, Mike, it's wide open. It's all your finish line. Soak it in or something like that. And that was tempting. But I kind of turned around and I looked, and like everybody just started cheering. It was really cool feeling, to go through that because there was no one else around and everybody kind of got into it. And I enjoyed that part.
You're a popular man, dude.
I don't know if anybody knew me. There was just like that
Doesn't
sort of
matter.
reaction.
It doesn't matter. It's all about soaking it in.
So who, me?
Yeah, who, me? Yeah, that's Riley.
So it almost makes it worth it.
But you're still not signed up for one right today, are you?
No, that ain't gonna happen.
You're gonna give it a while. No, it was. Listen, it was all around an awesome special weekend. It was awesome for us to have. We had the hub open. We had people coming in. We got to meet a lot of our listeners. Came in and say hi and buy some gear. We were at the race site. I got talked to quite a few people on the race course and swim morning and getting off the bike and seeing people run up the hill and just people being thankful. And, I really have to give a huge shout out to the athletes that we have, that we work with. And that was some of the biggest, and still getting emails from random people about meeting athletes that we have on the team. Just how genuinely like authentic they are and how amazing the community that we have is. And it's just, our team is kind of developed in a way that, like I mentioned in my weekly email this morning that I was at the award ceremony yesterday. We had 3 athletes on the podium. They were also they were handing out the Tri Club championship stuff. And I texted Audrey and I was like, make sure you go get that because I'm not getting up to go get that. And of course, she was like, okay, sure. Yeah, I'll be happy to go up there and get this. She's like, but she's like, 18, 20. She's like, or she's, in her early 20s and she's like, still bubbly, not even like limping. I'm like, man, it must be nice. I'm like limping from spectating. And, they rattle off all these, big, what I would consider like, the teams, but they're ambassador discount generated teams like, Zoot, Waddy Inc., base teams, they're not coach teams. And when the guy announced, he was like, and the winner in the first place at C26 it's like, it's like, and the Oscar goes to, and like everybody kind of does like who the hell is that? It's some like, weird documentary that no one's seen. And they just kind of like choose that person. But the amount of people that we had, come up and then say things to our athletes and just say how awesome it was to race with their team. And, the camps that you and I talk about frequently, our camps sell out not because of you and I, they sell out because of the people. People come to the camp one time for, the environment and the atmosphere and the coaching and the terrain and the locations we get to go to and to get a good workout in and to get away from life, and to escape. But every year they come back for the people. And that's the biggest compliment that we ever get as coaches and as the leaders of our team, is just how amazing the people are that we work with in a sport and in life where, frankly, it's hard to find, such a huge group of people and people that come from, across the country, Canada, California, to do a race like this and felt like, they were never alone, because they had other people cheering them on and having, good words to say and kind things. And it's just fun. It's fun to watch a group of athletes and people, grow and develop and, really just grow, right? It's like, and like you care about how they do and you care about, how close they get to meeting their expectation or doing these things. And, you and I both think the same way about that. As sometimes it's a lot. Sometimes sometimes it's not one of those heavy lies the crown. It's one of those kind of heavy lies the goals, kind of thing where you have athletes that, they entrust you with for a lot of people, the biggest goal that they've ever had in life athletically. Mm-hmm. And they trust you to lay out a plan and to find, to figure out a way to help them get to that goal. And so to watch them achieve that and to kind of see the happiness on their face and to watch them be proud of themselves, or to watch them check off a box that they've never checked off before, that they've been wanting for years, years and years and years. It's just special to be around and to watch, a group of, sometimes I think when people pop over our website, they're like, oh, happy and healthy. Oh, and they must be all about having fun and being soft and going with the motions. Like, we will run you over. And that's kind of the mentality that we were happy and healthy because we like to keep a good perspective about life. And that's what allows people to get out there and race with fury and just get it done and find a way and be, and do their best. So it is, it's exhausting, but it is always fun to watch, people grow and reach their potential and have fun doing it. And just being around other people. And that's why we do the team events, is because, it's just, you always see somebody, and people say, I just saw, even if I didn't know him, I saw a C26 hat or jersey, and I was like, oh, there we go, get like a little piece of energy to it. Mm-hmm. And so they're fun. I can't wait to do more of them. Not anytime soon. Maybe middle of next year is a good time for that. But it's awesome. That being around races are great, and just watching, and it takes a lot, I think we underestimate that. It takes a lot of guts to toe the line, and to put yourself out there like that, even especially when things haven't gone perfectly, right? Because so many athletes, triathletes specifically, are perfect Pats. I need things to be perfect. I need to know that when I go into a race, I'm the best prepared I've ever been in my entire life. Everything needs to go perfectly. No sickness, no travel, no whatever. But that ain't ever going to happen. If that's the way that you think, you might get to race once every 10 years. Because, because for the most part, no one has a perfect lead up. Something always happens. And we have a bunch of people with stuff happen leading up to the race. Hell, you've had a bunch of people have a lot of stuff happen in the last 2 years. And they signed up for this race 2 years ago, and now they're racing as someone different with a totally different life. You got people who travel now. You got people, we had a bunch of guys that, that went to St. George and did Worlds 8 days before, and they're like, should I think can I do it? Is it smart? And like John Heath, he was one of the guys that did it, and he emailed, or I saw it on Training Peaks this morning. He was like, even though, the day didn't go as perfectly as I wanted to, he was like, I'll have these 2 weeks of memories for the rest of my life. He was like, I'll be driving out and doing that and doing this. And that's what it is. It's about the memories, right, that we create. And I think if you continue, if you're one of those people and you continue to sit on the sidelines, race after race after race, and not put yourself out there, no, but I can't do that because it doesn't fit perfectly into my game plan of the year. And according to Training Peaks, I'm going to be overtrained, or I'm going to, miss this. I'm like, you're missing the point. Like, go out there, because you genuinely never know what's going to happen. And the more times you get out there, the more times you toe the line, the better chance you have to see what can finally happen. And so don't be one of those people who always looks for the perfect window, the perfect day, the perfect race to think you have a shot. You never know. And the biggest thing though is just stop. Don't miss stops along the way of your journey, and don't bypass opportunities to grow and to have fun and to be around people.
Yeah. I know. And like I said, I think that was part of my struggle, is I was missing the point a lot of that day. When I got on the bus, to go over the swim, and I got in the first bus in line, and there was like nobody in there. I sat in the second seat on the right and didn't, I don't know these guys, but Sam Long was right in front of me, I guess. Mm-hmm. And look, there was only like 8 people on the whole bus, and she said, go to the back and fill it from the back to the front. And so people started coming and going, nice job, Sam, out at Worlds or whatever. And he's like, thanks. And he started going, when are we going to leave? I mean, we weren't real late, but I could feel his gun was like,
he was like, when are we going here?
His leash was getting a little shorter as far as when they started. It was maybe an hour from the start at that point or something. Because it was after 6:30, I think, when I got on there. And there was like several buses behind us, with lines, and people were getting in those, and no one was getting in the first bus. I thought it was, so I didn't know it was Sam, but I said, hey, Sam, you might need to step out and recruit some people. He goes, yeah, that's a good idea. And he goes out and he starts waving people in, and all of a sudden we got the bus filled and everything like that. But
using his celebrity status.
Yeah, well, I heard that. Yeah, I guess he dropped.
Dropped out. Yeah, it looks like, I don't know why, but I guess he has happened. He had a rough. He was second place at Worlds 8 days later and smashed on that course. So who knows?
Who knows? But I just want to bring that up because we talk about happy, healthy, not missing the point about this, and the memories and all the good stuff, and just accomplishing things. And I can't, even that little side bet I was talking about earlier with the guy. That just is and that kind of a distance I can't imagine being a pro in that. Dude. I mean, the intensity that you have to keep for so long, and just bury yourself week after month or whatever. And to do that is just like, whoa, man. It's when you're a kid and you're running, you got to suck it up for a 100-yard dash or something. That's one thing. But to go for, 10, 12 hours, 14 hours, and really have a competitive nature about it. I think I got to when I got into endurance sports, I was just really marveled at how, because I always played team sports and we always wanted to kick everybody's ass, just kill them and beat them down and, step on their head or whatever. But when I got into endurance, everybody's real supportive, no matter what or how you did. And it was sort of they just wanted you to, even if you beat them, they wanted you to do good and had more of that mentality. And I remembered thinking how weird that was in the beginning. It was like, how do you not compete against each other? And I still have that, festering in me, but I think I gotta let that go. And it's all gotta be, just to be, I guess, proud of what you've done and really compete with yourself again. Because, I just, that pointy end of things, that stuff we were talking about, to be in Dave's position to have to, hold on to second place and stuff. I just, it really feels like too much for me in my life. It really just feels like that's the wrong road to keep going down as you get older. And, it really is being about happy and healthy and feeling good and just being comfortable and not having to, figure out in your head why the hell you're doing this. That's just, it's a weird place.
I mean, you're you're going through all the same things that everybody goes through. When they get done with the race, you question a lot, with things. And I think anytime you do, or anytime a life event occurs where it challenges your perspective is a good thing, right? Because it means you're, because most people, not most, but a lot of people don't ever change their perspective on anything. Like they're done growing. They've made up their mind. They're set in stone. This is the only way to do it. This is how it gets done. This is what I want. And they're missing the point, right? Of evolving and growing and becoming something different and doing something different and finding, like, listen, like if you're not having fun, you're doing it all wrong. All of it. You have to do things that allow yourself the opportunity to be happy and to have fun. If you don't, then you're going to find yourself like so many other athletes in sport where you're one and done and out in 3 years. You're burnt out. Your expectations are so high. You drive yourself from the ground, workout after workout, smashing yourself to death on the trainer, on the track, in the pool, chasing and chasing and chasing, to where the same thing goes for kind of like we said when you're racing a full. If you got it physically and you don't have it mentally, emotionally, you can keep going. You'll figure it out. Make your way to the finish line with a decent result. If you don't have it the other way around, you can still do it, and find your way. But if you're void of all three and you're physically toast and you've mentally and emotionally driven yourself from the ground, you're not getting up off the mat. You got nothing left. You got none of those three can kind of lean down and give you a hand and be like, I got you today. Like that's the same thing with training. Like some days you have a really hard day coming and physically and emotionally you don't have it, but mentally you're like, all right, it's my turn today. I can pick you up off the mat. I'll get us moving today. Some days you got all three going for you. Some days you just got two. Some days you got one, but it's the days you got none. And that's when you're like, I don't want to do this anymore. Right? You don't feel supported even within yourself to get up and get your ass out the door to get the work done. That's when things have gone awry. That's when you have lost perspective. That's when you've begun to focus on things that are strictly and only results-based, not process and growth-oriented. And that's the thing, is process and growth-oriented training and belief and perspective is what ultimately gets people to the never-ending, their best result down the way. And so a lot of people do. That's why people go all in and then go not immediately, but a few years later are all the way out. There is no people struggle with happy mediums. Is like being in the mix, or people struggle being in the ballpark, right? And being okay with being in the ballpark. They want to either be at home plate or they want to be sitting at home in front of TV, right? And watching the games go on. They don't know what it's like to be okay being in between and just finding your way. And that's part of it, is doing things that make you happy and figuring out along the way, because it might look drastically different from, like I was, an athlete that you and I both know well, Elise Gallegos, who was here racing this last weekend, won Ironman Florida a few years ago, was on the podium in Kona. And like, I remember like the last time that I saw her, we were racing in Chattanooga 7.3 and I nipped her barely, but then I figured out she was like 20 weeks pregnant. I was like, all right, now I feel slow. And then to see her like running around, she still had an awesome day, second in her age group, towing around, a 3-year-old and an infant, and like, but to be able to like still have the goods emotionally and mentally to get out there and push yourself, like just shows the evolution. You go from, having no kids and racing and having to do things and, no one to take care of, to now having little boys to take care of, and being a mom is number one, and like, but still finding a way to get done. Like, to have that perspective and to be flexible, it takes a lot of courage too, right? It's to figure out that maybe you can't be who you thought you needed to be 3 years ago, but that this new version, you can still get the job done. And I think it takes courage to believe in that within yourself, or a team or a coach, to have someone to believe in you that things can change and you can still get the job done.
Yeah. And there's so much in there, man, but we don't have a lot of time, but I really do think that, I'm really dedicated right now to kind of try and figure all that stuff out, as far as
you're about to dedicate this podcast, is what you're saying. I'm going to dedicate this podcast to my mom and to Riley.
Okay. I will. And Emily, who was the awesome Sherpa, she took care of me out there and it was amazing. So, but I mean, to dedicate myself to kind of figuring all that stuff out a little bit more, because I kind of just go through the motions. And we had a podcast about, be ready for the pain, probably like 4 episodes ago. Mm-hmm. And we have to really mean that. Because like I said it, it's kind of, it wasn't lip service because I totally know it, but you don't know it until you know it or you feel it. And, if you're racing this weekend, just be ready for that and just be ready to dig deep. But that doesn't mean that the sport has to be revolved around, always being in pain or always being tired and things like that. And that's really where I want to put my focus. The reality is, I'm 57 and I just went out and did an Ironman at a pretty decent clip, a little bit undertrained probably, but I did it. And that's great. Like why that isn't a big deal, it's like why that doesn't matter to me right now is kind of weird, but I think I have to get out of my head with that. And I just really want to help people figure out more of that happy, healthy stuff and how to feel good and how to enjoy things in this sport without killing yourself all the time. And I don't know what that means or what I'm trying to say, but that's where my head's at right now. I really got to take it seriously because I sort of felt like this last time, but then it's been 2 years or whatever, and you just kind of let things go. But I really want to help people with that and help them enjoy the sport more because that's so much more important.
Because if you don't enjoy it, you ain't gonna do it for very long, and that's the thing. It's like
right, and you're not gonna feel good. And
people want to be. People think they can be their best in a year or 2 years. You ain't. It takes literally years and years and years and years, try after try after try after try, to get it right. And to be your best. But you have to be available and still racing when that time comes to actually be your best. It's the people that try to rush it, right? That have. It's like it was awesome watching, a bunch of the athletes we work with do 70.3 World Championships here because a lot of the people that were there were ones that asked me years ago, do you think I can, qualify? Do you think I have what it takes? And I was like, not right now, but maybe in a couple of years, which is like the worst sales pitch of a lifetime, right? It's like, do you think I can? I literally no idea, but I can tell you that if you're consistent and you work hard and you have fun and we stay injury free, then we'll be in a much better spot in 2 years than we are right now. And then you just kind of see where the chips may fall, right? And that's just in that. But it takes the right kind of athlete too to have that. I'm in. I just want to see. I want to see where it goes with this. I want to see if I'm in the best shape of my life. I want to see like that's the thing that I think people struggle with is like just that quick. I'm in the best shape of my life. Like results be damned. I'm in the best shape of my life. In your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, back when in high school and college, you thought you were the shit. You're like, I got it going. Then you're like, dude, I'm 40. Job, kids, life, doing this. And I'm in the best shape of my life. Mm-hmm. And you look around at your, 20-year class reunion, you're like, I got it. And like everybody else is struggling or, overweight and, or, illness. You're like, man, this is what it's about. So the longer you hang around, the better shot you have. And the better you're going to be. You just have to be in it for the long haul, and you have to do that. You can't rush it. You can't expect to be. Listen, you expect to be anything overnight, you're looking the wrong way. And that's part of it. It's not what people want to hear. People want to hear they can do it, on training 8 hours a week and do it in 16 weeks and be this, and that's just not gonna. It might happen for 1 out of 500, but for the other 499 of you, it takes a while, and you got to be willing to. You got to be all in on that, and all in doesn't mean obsessing about triathlon every single day. It means being willing to talk about the rest of your life and acknowledging the rest of your life and enjoying training and not obsessing about things and just having fun. And that's like one of the things you and I try to really instill with athletes is like, relax, have some fun, right? Because like when you see an athlete taking things too seriously, you're like, dude, chill the hell out. Like, this is a hobby. Like, relax a little bit. Like, I know you want to do this or want to do that and want to have this, but you're barking up the wrong tree because no one's going to be home. You need to relax, have fun, and that's how you, again, stay in the sport long enough to figure it out and find that magic recipe that is the perfect balance between the right kind and the right type of training and how much you can mentally and emotionally invest and when. And that's when you put it all together and you have your best day.
Yeah, I gotta keep that in mind.
Well, we all got work to do, man. That's why we keep doing this, man. It's why we keep doing it.
Yeah, I guess that's it. I mean, the race actually went fairly well, other than my aero bar started loosening up. That feeling you get when you got an old car and it's not really turning, your wheel is...
The death wobble.
Yeah, that was kind of spooky. I had to get off and tighten that down. And but other than that, I thought it was a fairly good day. I'm glad I did it, and now it's time to recover. And like I tell everybody, now it's time to get in the pool and swim my ass off, because take advantage of that fitness you get.
Take advantage of it, man. Take some time, relax.
I really was. I mean, I was happy in the morning. It was that there was a ton of, like, we had everybody together. You know, we pretty much all started together.
I saw, like, my watch and my phone were going
ting,
off.
Ting, ting.
Yeah, in the water.
Yeah, we had a huge group right up there. We got up pretty close to the front. I think some of the guys are right up front, but it was cool hanging out with everybody. I felt good. And I really do love plunging. You know, you jump off that pier and, like, just jump in that water. I was like, okay. It woke me up, and it was a good feeling. I had a really nice swim. It was pretty steady all the way through, and I knew it was going to be good. You know, my shoulder didn't bother me at all. You know, and it's been getting a lot better. But I thought, well, man, that grinder, and then it didn't even really hurt on the bike. I thought aero was going to give me a problem, and it didn't. I almost one of the things I didn't even think about though is, like, you know, sometimes you have contact in the water.
Oh yeah. And
that was where it was going to get hurt, because I was going to do some weird motion with to push somebody off. And I'm like, come on, we got a whole river. These people are kind of T-boning me or whatever, you know, that kind of thing.
That's why I tell people, swim with the competent swimmers. Swim in the front. For people that, I don't know who I was talking to this about, but I was like, you get in the front, right? You get in the front with people who know how to swim and swim around people. You don't get in with the mix of people who are like, I don't know where to go. I'm just going to crawl on top of you and, like, create as much contact. I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm just trying to make my way through. Like, that's what it is. It's like, It's like people swim like they're trying to, like, grab cobwebs. Like they just get out of the way. Get out of the way. Get out of the way. And you're like, you're crawling over my back. No, get in front of the swimmers who know what it's like to swim around people and don't want contact.
Yeah. The worst part was right at the end there when people were trying to get out. Too.
Dude, I know. I saw it. I was like, like converging into, like, a huge mosh pit.
I stopped about 10 yards probably from the finish and kind of just started to get my bearings and get upright a little bit, and I was going to cruise in. I looked at my watch and it said 59, and I'm like scrambling to get up that
get out of here, man. I knew in the first pros, well, because watching it at where we were, the kayaks, they weren't moving. Their oars or the paddles were, like, sitting on top, like really? their arms around there. And Tommy Bonds worked at TVA. He was like, hey, they're shutting off the flow. At 6 a.m., they went all the way down to, like, maybe 1 or 2 generators.
Oh, really?
And he was like, it's probably going to be like Chat 70.3. And I was like, oh shit. And then I saw, but then when they were doing the live telecast, they said the pros were having to work to stay in one place because they did an in-water start. And I was like, all right, that's good. Mm-hmm. And then obviously when the first pro got out in 42, which is about 8 to 9 minutes faster than what most pros will do the full, and I was like, oh yeah, gonna be a good day. And when our first athletes came out with the 5, I was like, sweet God, thank you, baby Jesus. Like, I knew it was gonna be at least somewhat, you know, it was a with current, but it was still fair. I mean, it was still, you know, fairish for a downstream current. It's just easy. It was wetsuit legal, straight line, no turns, you know, no getting out.
Yeah. I figured it was worth about 15 to 20 seconds per 100 meters.
Yeah, I think about 8 to 10 minutes total is what it probably took off people's times. Mm-hmm. But, you know, you get what you get, and you know what? They make you pay for it in the back half of that run. You know, and that's just kind of that's how it is, man. It's like there's nothing fair or easy about any of it, because it's all about what you end with, and they end with the booger. And that's it. We'll end the one on that. I hope you all had an awesome weekend. For those of you racing this weekend, good luck. Thanks again for everybody who came out and supported and spectated and said hi and raced. It was awesome having you in our city. Hope you had an amazing time. You can always check out all the rest of the things that we do on our website, C26Triathlon.com. That's your one-stop shop for all things coaching, camps, and community. If you're looking for a coach for next year, now's the time to find it. Click on the coaching tab, find the coach that's right for you, and reach out. You can always reach out to Mike directly. He is at crushingiron@gmail.com. If you need anything from me, I'm at C26coach@gmail.com. And you can always follow us on the socials at C26_triathlon on Instagram.
Yeah,
Don't follow us on Facebook because we're not.
Keep an eye out for new gear on the website too.
Yes,
We got a bunch of new
coming.
gear. I gotta get all that organized and get it up, but we'll be having new stuff for sale, and look forward to hearing from everybody. If you're waiting to hear from me, that should happen today or tomorrow. But I'm catching up, obviously.
Just say this week.
This week,
people
okay.
Are forgiving.
Yeah, people are forgiving. You understand. I kind of shut it down on Friday, and
as you should have.
Yeah, and yesterday was a shut-off valve.
Should have been.
And yeah, and it was. I was actually glad to hear you didn't get the email out till today.
I was out of office yesterday.
Okay, but I know.
Not really. I was at the awards.
I was expecting to open it on Sunday night, going, "Hey, great week, team." I was like, man, you're gonna make me feel like shit.
We gotta do what we gotta do, man. We gotta do what we gotta do. Recharge the batteries, do our best, and move it on up.
Yep. Best of luck to everybody racing this weekend. And, yeah, we'll see you Thursday.
All right,
see you, man.